Okay, the meeting is being recorded, so this is the Economic Development Commission meeting of Thursday, May 4th. We're meeting in the second floor conference room of the Old Town Hall, as well as via Zoom. Mark Barnhart, Director of Community Economic Development. Call the roll here. I think in the room we have Commissioners Kevin Lesko, Justin Beck, Jennifer Anderson, and online we have Matt Rappaport, Steve Rosato, and Kenny Hockhauser. We also have joining us, besides myself, Gretchen Gertner, our recording secretary, Beverly Ballas, Fairfield Chamber of Commerce. We have Commissioner Emeritus Don Peterson, and our two guest speakers, Ani Chakazbanian and Colleen Morrison. And we'll get to them in just a minute, but I'll turn things over to you, Mr. Chair, if you'd like to make any.
Just a good morning and welcome everyone. Thank you, Mark, for kind of lining everyone up like this. Gretchen, thank you for all the notes. And I do look forward to hearing from our guests, Ani and Colleen. And I do believe that we have a couple of other commentary from some of our commissioners today too on a side note, and I look forward to hearing that. So with all that said, meeting minutes from last month, is there
just want to make one correction.
Yes,
as Mr. Peterson pointed out, we also have Colin Colburn joining us as well.
Oh, excellent, Colin. Thank you.
Also in attendance last month was Chad Stewart as a guest.
Oh, good. Excellent. Very good.
So with that correction, All
right. Excellent. So a motion to accept the minutes from last meeting is okay.
Second.
And second. Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Good. Very good. All right. So moving forward, I guess we're going to hear from Colleen and Ani.
Yeah, let me
I'll
set
hand it
this
back to
up.
you.
I'll introduce Colleen and Ani from Avangrid UI. We met a little while ago to talk about some of the incentives that Energize CT provides for small businesses. I thought it would be helpful for the commission to understand more about that and to share that with your contacts. And so without further ado, I'll introduce the two of them and I'll try to queue up their PowerPoint. So hang on one second. Oops. There it is.
We're getting good at this, Mark.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
You know, so we have the, let's see here. Now all I have to do is figure out the slideshow.
Go down, right.
I'm always at the top. So.
Oh, okay.
All right, there we go. All right, I'll turn things over to you, Colleen and Ani. Good morning. Thank you for joining us online. I'll let you guys introduce yourself.
Okay, I'll just start because this is Colleen's show. I'm the key account manager for the town of Fairfield, which means I'm the direct point of contact for all utility needs, billing, outages, all of that, emergency management. I work with all the key staff in the city or the town. And so when, I come and meet with everybody, I listen to what's going on. And also, I think about ways that UI could help the city. And I keep saying city, I'm sorry, town of Fairfield. And so when I had spoken to Colleen, we had done a big team meeting. She mentioned all of these small business incentives that she has. And so I've been going around to each of the municipalities that I represent and having her speak to the economic development directors and committees to kind of discuss the ways that we can help these small businesses. Because although they are cute and they are seemingly thriving, they also have, their issues in the back behind closed doors. So I thought it might be a really good opportunity to kind of spread the word and have Colleen come and speak to everybody about ways that maybe can make a little bit of a dent in some of their financial struggles. So with that, I will hand it over to Colleen.
Thanks, Ani.
Morning, Colleen.
Morning, my name is Colleen Morrison. I am the small business program manager for energy efficiency projects in Connecticut and Massachusetts. I apologize, I'm a little congested because I've been sick this week, but I'm gonna do my presentation. We have done a number of projects in Fairfield. I've been managing this program for about 2.5 years, but we've been around for many years. You want to go to the next slide. We have some really great offers that, are and incentives we can give to small business owners. We, work directly with Eversource. We run the program consistently across the state. You want to go to the next slide? I'm not going to read it word for word because
Oh,
um,
just tell me when I'm supposed to advance.
yeah,
the
you can
slide.
go to the next one. We
Excellent.
have a closed network of small business contractors. We have 25 only that work in our program across the state. They also work, it's the same group of contractors that work in the Eversource territory too. So they receive the same training, they go through the same security clearances, are highly educated in our programs, and most of them have been working with us for over 20 years. So we have a really great group. What they do is they'll go out and walk right into a place and basically say, hey, can I give you an energy audit? It's always free when we do an energy audit, meaning that we're going to go into the facility and explain some of the things that you can do to, improve your lighting, improve some of the controls that you have, and kind of just walk you through it. So they educate the customers. They're going to give you, a list of, comprehensive projects that you can do where it's not just lighting, it goes beyond the lighting. And they're going to talk about our financing opportunities that we have. So if you want to go to the next slide.
Good.
Okay, so some of the benefits for you as business owners is that we're going to match you with one of those qualified contractors. They're going to come out and do the no cost proposal. They're going to tell you about our incentives that we offer. And, we have 0% financing with your with an on-bill on your electric bill repayment option where we can finance it out to 60 months. We also offer support for non-English speakers, and we just in general show you how you can reduce your operating costs and your environmental footprint, which right now, with electric bills increasing and things like that, this is a really good opportunity to, have someone come back and reevaluate what's happening in your facility. You want to go to the next slide. We launched something new last year called the Microbusiness Program. It's the most rich incentive that we give. So meaning that we give up to 80% of the total cost of the project in incentives or rebates back to the customer, meaning you're not paying for that. And then you can finance the other 20% on your electric bill. We have some marketing material, and we do things like, we can put in smart meters, weatherization. The microbusiness program works really great in churches. We did a number of churches actually in Fairfield over the last 2 years. Works really good at schools. It works great in like urgent care walk-ins, a lot of times in liquor stores, things like that. We've seen kind of very popular places that have low usage. That's why churches are really a good fit for this right now, because they don't have a lot of operating hours. If you want to go to the next slide, how to participate. You want to keep going, Mark? You just let us know you're interested, and we will match you with someone directly that will come out to your facility. They'll schedule a meeting with whatever time works best for you guys. They're going to go through the process. After they do a full audit there, they're going to come back to us and let us know what the project would consist of. I would review all of the projects and also to have an engineering review depending on what you're having done. If you're doing some mechanical upgrades like replacing HVAC or things like that, that goes through a full engineering review. And then we would sign off on it. You would get a proposal to sign off on, and once it's contracted, the supplies would be ordered directly with the contractor. They would schedule an installation and construction plan with you and let us know when it's completed. We would come out and do a post inspection if needed, depending, we really base it off of a couple different factors. And then, we pay the contractor directly. And then if you're financing your project, we would add it to your utility bill. most of the time, there's no upfront cost to the customer because you're going to finance the remaining portion on your electric bill, or sometimes they just pay a copayment directly. So they're not financing any of it. So for our micro business program, we will finance, starting from $500 up to $4,000. Our regular small business program, we can go up to $100,000 for a repayment option on a loan. And on municipal projects that flows through our large commercial, you can get up to $500,000 of financing through UI. You want to keep going? New this year, we are financing for EV charging stations. If you want to install EV charging at your facility, it does flow through our EV charging group first, but there's certain rebates you get automatically for installing those outside of the small business program. But we do allow you to finance whatever is not incentivized through them directly through our program, as long as you're doing other things like some retrofit lighting upgrades or something like that at your facility. You can finance the cost of the EV charging directly on your utility bill. So we launched this in March. It's brand new, but the EV chargers are really taking off in different municipalities and things like that. So that's pretty much what I can offer. I'm happy to meet with anybody directly if you want to talk about having an audit done at your facility, or if you want us to reach out to any small business owners directly in Fairfields, we're happy to do that. We do have one of our vendors is actually a Fairfield resident that does a ton of audits there and different jobs. But we're happy to connect you with anybody that you would like that is a vendor in our profile with small business.
And Colleen, in the past, we've done a workshop. It has not been robustly attended, but we've done some workshop, and I would say maybe we got a couple dozen folks in attendance at the Fairfield Theater Company, among other venues we've used. Would that be a possibility? Again, I assume that if we wanted to put something like that together, you'd be happy to support it to get word out to.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to attend anything that you want to put on and speak to my program. We're always trying to, keep our pipeline current with projects coming in. So anytime you want me to present or attend a function, I can. I wanted to be there in person today, but I didn't want to get any of you guys sick.
Well, we appreciate that. The other thing I remember is when we tried to target or identify businesses based on utility demand, that was an issue with, you're not being able to provide or furnish that information to us because it was, proprietary or confidential information. That hasn't changed at all. So, it obviously would be most beneficial to those that have high utility costs, which is a common complaint we hear from many businesses.
Yeah.
So, again, I don't know if there's a way that
I cannot provide lists of people's usage without their permission. Yeah.
Probably give us indications as the types of businesses we should be looking for to target our.
Okay, so that's what you're looking for. Yeah, I mean, I can. Any business that is a small business or any business in general, whether it's a large commercial property, my whole team is made up with the engineers that do the large commercial upgrades and things like that too. So if it doesn't fit in small business, then we would, move it along to the large commercial side. But what happens is when we know that a customer is interested, we look at their usage history and determine which program it fits best with. And if they're just doing something like an HVAC replacement, sometimes it doesn't flow through one of our programs. It would just flow through like what we call our midstream program, where they're just going to get the money directly as an incentive or rebate for doing something like that. So it's really our responsibility to look at the customer's usage history and determine what makes the best business sense in how the customer would get the best bang for their buck going through our program.
Colleen, I noticed you have the EV charging station. Do you splice this with any solar capability as well, panel capability? Are you just kind of a standalone on this portion of it?
So solar is handled differently. It's solar flows through another program. It's not part of my small business portfolio right now. So I can connect you with someone on the solar side if you're looking to do that. But it's definitely not part of something I incentivize.
But wouldn't it make sense to dovetail the two of them together? If someone's going to kind of make a big run at it, they want to kind of have all the options on the table and splice the whole thing together, right?
Yes, I agree. So, internally we are trying to do that, but usually if someone's installing solar, they're going through a vendor directly for that solar install. And, so it falls through a different whole program. But yeah, we internally are always trying to make sure that we are working with the various departments to make sure that we're getting the best benefit for the customer.
At least like your engineer could potentially review what the solar side of it is along with their side of it. I mean, do you have that depth in your engineers that could kind of oversee the whole thing?
Well, they're different engineers, so
Yeah.
that's part of it. Is the solar is been considered like a totally different program altogether. Not necessarily part of the conservation team, which is what I'm on, structurally at our business, but it is something, cohesively that we're always trying to, make changes and, bring things together.
Well, put a different way,
Yeah.
I mean, if the customer expresses interest in solar, you guys could bring the correct people to the table to have one discussion around it.
Yes. Yeah. So if someone tells me they're interested in solar, I get that customer directly to that group and, get the conversation going.
Okay.
I'm just curious, do you have like targets to hit for like participation? This is more.
Yes.
And how is that? Well, I mean, there's like zero downside to it. Like any business, I would think it would benefit from doing this.
They would. So I have a budget that I have to maintain. So typically in the last 2 years, we did about 275 projects across the 17 towns and cities in the UI territory. My operating budget's about 3.8 million for small business. We were a little shy of it last year, but we did great, otherwise. Part of it too was, with COVID and with the supply chain issues, that kind of stopped some of our projects in its tracks because we were waiting on materials to get here, with all the cargo ships kind of sitting out there waiting to unload. It kind of just, all of those things, were factors in why things didn't happen so quickly. But for the most part, small business projects are a lot of times a lot of lighting retrofit, upgrades, controls on lighting and refrigeration, things like that. We're doing more weatherization and looking at other opportunities across the board.
Is there anything that we can do to help? I mean, are you running close to your goal? Like, I mean, is there a risk of maxing out where what's available to support?
I don't think we're going to max out so far this year. If you can direct any small business customers that are interested in, learning more, so we can come out and meet with them, that would be ideal. They just need to reach out directly to me. I think on one of the last slides on here, if you want to share the presentation, it has my contact info.
Or you'll share that with the group?
Yeah, Mark has it, so he can forward it out to all the attendees.
Is there another slide? Oh, there it is. Yeah, there you go. Sorry, I was cutting you off early.
That's okay. But
we will share the presentation deck with all the commission members, including those not able to attend in person today. So,
Colleen, I'd actually be interested in hearing from you.
okay.
I will put you in touch, Colleen, with Kevin Lesko. Kevin's the chair and also a business owner here in town, so.
Okay,
Mark,
great.
me too. Colleen, this is Beverly from the Chamber of Commerce. Post-COVID, I've kind of lost the relationship with UI. And working with Mark and his suggestion of a workshop, I think that's great. But the Chamber of Commerce is another avenue to support your program.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we can share that with our chamber members. We've got about 300 businesses. So if we can connect and I can get your email, as Mark just suggested, that he'll share with us, would love to reconnect with UI and
Sure.
see how we can support what you're doing as well.
I will
Yeah,
do
and if
that.
you want me to present at your chamber meeting, I'm happy to do that virtually or in person. In addition to our program,
Combined meeting,
Yeah, maybe we can work together to get.
I agree.
stuff out.
I agree on that one, yeah. All right, thank you.
no problem.
Other questions from folks?
I would say, like, personally-
Peterson, how do you handle small business? It's in lease space. There must be a conversation with the owner of the facility.
Yeah, so the way we work it is whoever has the electric bill in their name, we will work with on a project. So if you're leasing space, and typically someone who is doing a short-term lease, or knows they're only going to be there for a year or so, will not do a project with us. If they're going to be there for a longer period of time, they will typically have a conversation with the owner of the building and say, look, I want to do some lighting upgrades, and they'll work something out. But if you do a project and you're taking on a financed piece of that, it's going to go directly onto the utility bill for whoever is occupying that space. So it would be typically the tenant that is going to pay for this. And we ask them to work it out with their landlord, however they want to do that, if they, are okay paying for it, or if they, are deducting it from their rent. We don't get involved in that. We just tell them that, we're okay doing the project there as long as they're willing to pay for it. Typically, the tenant will do it, especially if it is, improving their bottom line and they're saving immediately on their utility bill, but they're not going to take on a loan for a project if they're not planning on staying.
Improvement.
How much does a charging station cost for business to put one, and what's the process?
So I can't give you a figure on that. I'm curious myself. I've asked before. It depends on the type of charging station you're adding in. Some of the charging stations you can charge, one vehicle or multiple vehicles. I can connect you with Marriott Dowden, who runs that program here at UI, and they can talk you through costs and things like that. But I definitely I'm not the subject matter expert with that. We just launched it in March too, and I haven't actually seen any projects come through to me just yet, but I don't see them until after it clears through their program and they tell us what the overall cost will be after the rebates are applied. So it's still so new. I don't have knowledge to share.
And again, is that something the customer would have to express interest in an EV charging station? It's not that when you do the energy audit, the person conducting the audit says, well, this would be a great facility for an EV charging station.
No,
It's more-
yeah. So the customer would typically say that they're looking for something like that. And depending, you could be renting a space in a strip mall. And, the owner of that strip mall would be the one who really would be talking about adding EV charging stations if they wanted to have that. It's typically a small tenant in the strip mall wouldn't really be interested in that, but if you are a grocery store owner and you want to have EV charging stations there, then that's going to be on a bigger scale where you may be putting in 4 or 5 or 10. So it just depends. It's new. So, it's not something typically our vendors or contractors are really putting out there unless someone's expressing interest.
Okay.
So I'm kind of naive about the charging stations. Now, do people actually they're charged for it, right? I mean, how is that charge being taken care of? Is there like a credit card swipe, or is it connected within the car itself?
Thank you, Ani.
Again, I am not the
Okay, all
subject
right.
matter expert with EV charging stations, but I will find out and get back to you. I don't
Yeah.
own an electric vehicle either,
Okay.
so I have no idea.
Okay. And I guess the bigger question is, does the property owner actually become a benefactor to that? Is there, or
I
like?
think most of these are structured where the person doing the charge, are actually paying for the utility cost.
But whoever put in the charging station, is he or she actually making money on it?
I don't know that, so
I
that's.
don't think so, to be honest
Okay.
with you on that part of
Okay,
it. But these are good questions for me to be prepared.
Why would you do it?
Yeah, I think they're looking at it more as a building amenity to their tenants.
Yeah,
so,
okay.
You know, that's
Okay.
a consideration.
All right, fair enough. All right, thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions for Colleen? All right, well, thank you very much, Colleen, appreciate your joining us, this morning.
Good, look forward to hearing from you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Hey,
have a good
you're
day.
welcome to stay on or continue on with your business, so,
Oh, thank you. I'm gonna drop, but thank you. It was really nice to meet with all of you.
okay. we'll
Thank you.
follow up.
Okay.
Thanks, Mark.
Well
Bye.
done.
All right,
Very good. That was informative. Mark, you want to do, some updates for us?
just very quickly, the one thing that, you know, we've been tracking, closely, I'm sure everyone, read the newspapers in terms of a couple things that have come up, 22.
There were cheers in the
Yeah,
Anderson
well-
household from the.
Well, I am sure in terms of, yes, there are some folks that are very excited to have a Chick-fil-A, but yeah, we've obviously been dealing with some of the, blowback, associated with that. I mean, it is, I'm sure it's a little confusing when an applicant first, comes before the board, through a public hearing process. The differentiator is that they were proposing to construct a building on an existing site with a drive-through, necessitated a public hearing. In this case, they apparently decided that, they really wanted to be in this marketplace, and they were willing to accept the building as is, with no change in the patron floor area, only minor, improvements to the exterior facade, exterior renovation, all of which are essentially, doesn't constitute a change in use from the, prior restaurant operation that was there.
Mm-hmm.
So there won't be a drive-through. Arguably, there might be even more of an impact in terms of, parking and congestion without the drive-through, but, and fewer parking spaces dedicated. On the other hand, they went through the process and got their necessary approvals. We did get a heads up, about, a month or month and a half ago, because I've been pestering the owner to make improvements to the site, because the site has been on the Blight Committee's agenda, and it's just an eyesore when you
Sure.
go into town. So I've been pestering him regularly about what his plans are for the site, referring other inquiries with regard to the space to him and to folks that have been connected with brokering the facility. And then, you know, he indicated something was in the works, that they had a tenant lined up. Did inform Brenda and myself a while back that gonna be Chick-fil-A. We went through the mechanics of it. By that point, he had already secured both exterior and interior building permits for it. And we just wanted to make sure that everything was on the up and up in terms of you know, following the correct process, which he did.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're waiting for the other shoe to drop, which it did about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago. So that's where we are. You know, there are obviously people that are very excited. I'm sure the folks on campus are very excited.
Isn't that just a really big space?
It is
I mean, it's like,
Like a really
I mean,
big
like, like they can almost like subdivide it, you know, I mean,
It's a
or
very-
they can put in
it's a large
other,
restaurant, yeah.
other
Yeah,
venues within the same.
Yep.
yeah.
I mean, long term, I think they, you know, this current plan obviously doesn't take into account the adjoining barber shop,
Yeah.
space.
Right.
Which was part of the original plan, so, that's probably a phase 2 at some point, in terms of how that gets incorporated into the overall site plan. But they're moving ahead, obviously, I'm excited that something's happening
There.
on the site and they're cleaning it up.
Yeah.
There's people both pro and con in terms of the tenant, but again, we don't regulate tenants or end users or businesses, we regulate the land use.
Right.
So this is equivalent to when Pizzeria Uno became a Panera Bread on Black Rock Turnpike. There wasn't an application made that the commission heard at that time, where if a Wendy's switched to a Burger King or
Right.
if that ever happened.
Right.
That doesn't
Right.
typically happen, but
Right.
but essentially it's the same
Right, yeah.
type of use.
Right.
So that was handled that way.
Okay.
And the other thing was, the other application obviously has generated quite a bit of public commentary, was the proposed, dog hotel and boarding facility at, the former Hyundai dealership on Post Road, which was not surprisingly denied by the commission after multiple public hearing nights.
And that neighborhood was very angry.
They were very,
Very
and
angry.
actually, I was at, and I think some of you also attended the POCD open house, that was held at, Osborne Hill the other evening, and there were a number of folks that were particularly animated about that subject before the vote was taken that, talked to me at some length, about the project. So, I don't know we've had other inquiries with regard to that site and the Bed Bath and Beyond site, and reached out and talked to the owner, several times and referred all those inquiries over to him and his group. I don't think they have physically possession of the Bed Bath and Beyond site yet, but, there's interest in both properties, so hopefully we'll come up with something that, in the case of Hyundai dealership, the neighborhood and the community can support, and Bed Bath and Beyond, obviously.
Mhm.
We're working on that. The other, project I've mentioned in the past that's currently pending before, planning and zoning, the public hearing has been closed, but that's the proposed text amendment for 81 Black Rock Turnpike. It's actually not for that site specifically, but it deals with the TOD overlay zone.
Mhm.
Largely implements, the recommendations that were part of the TOD planning study that was commissioned by the town, endorsed by this commission, approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission back in 2019. We never, found, and maybe this is a shortcoming on our part, I've talked to planning and zoning staff about this, but when we do these planning studies and then there's no implementation strategy beyond that, then, a period of time elapses. Sometimes you have a change in composition of boards and commissions, and you have to go through a re-education process of what we did. And it's oftentimes, from my standpoint, when I'm trying to talk about specific projects and how they're regulated, it's difficult because you're relying upon a planning document, but not actually regulation. So it then, puts the burden on the applicant to kind of work through that process. Not the best situation, I think, but hopefully, they had a rather robust conversation at the last meeting. They didn't vote on it, but it sounded to me as if, there was support for the proposed changes, and then based on that, they would come in with a specific site plan application for the site. And they're just simply trying to manage their risk and cost through the process. They don't want to actually go to full-blown engineered site plans unless they know this is a concept that the town supports, and they have an option in their purchase and sale agreement to back away if they don't have the zoning framework that would support their vision. Simultaneously, we're working, we submitted, and this commission supported, a resolution to provide a letter of support for a brownfield grant for the project. My thought was, again, currently, developments like this are obligated to provide 12% set aside for affordable units. Certainly from our perspective, we're trying to make some inroads in terms of achieving a moratorium or providing, you know, housing opportunities more generally. Nice to increase that percentage to something like 15 or 20%, but we understand in the current fiscal environment that it's tough to put all that burden on the back of a developer, and frankly, it would not make the project economically viable. So, if it was too high a percentage. So my thought was, you know, there's certainly a cost associated with cleaning up the site. It's a legacy brownfield site that was associated with the Bullard manufacturing facility. We know, you know, kind of what their MO was, what they did, which is take casting sands from their operations and basically distribute the site. So there is a cleanup of about $3.5 to $4 million, and we thought, you know, one possibility was to try to leverage some state dollars for exactly this purpose, and in exchange, we would get a higher percentage of it. Doesn't quite pencil out still, but, you know, again, there's opportunities there to close that gap. And I think the applicant, the developer, has certainly indicated a flexibility. They all live in town. The principals are all Fairfield residents, so they're willing to work with us to try to achieve both purposes.
Right.
So, positive sign. We did submit the application to Office of Brownfield Redevelopment. We got a response back asking a few follow-up questions. So we're in the queue.
What amount is,
We applied for $3 million.
you went for it, huh?
Yeah, we went for it. You know, if you look at it from a state
Go big or go home.
well, you know, this $3 million, if the state were to choose, if the state were willing to make this investment of $3 million, it leverages $95 or $100 million project.
Yeah.
Which creates a number of affordable units, which is one of the state's stated goals,
Right.
Particularly around transit. So we think it checks a lot of boxes for the
Right.
state.
Yeah.
And we think the only issue with the state typically is that they have a $25 million funding pool, and I'm sure they'll have multiple candidates. So, you know, whether they would choose to fund, you know, sometimes it's spreading the money around. And in that case, it just means that we might have a bigger gap to fill, which we'll have to figure out. So, we're in the queue, so positive sign there. But that's, in terms of development applications, those are probably the ones that we're focused on the most. I will say that we continue to battle through this with the state on getting a license agreement for 111 Black Rock Turnpike. I had an hour-long conversation with Illicit and the DOT yesterday. You know, it seems like such a simple thing, but we make it incredibly complicated. So I'm trying to do a workaround on this, and hopefully resolve the issues so that we can finally get this squared away, because, you know, they've already, you know, pulled a building permit, they've taken possession of the property, so they are planning to move in. So it's just a question of how do we resolve the conditions of approval, which is, having some arrangement with the state vis-a-vis the parking, which arguably you don't even need, because the parking is there for the public to use. So
In the event that this gets too difficult, is a situation where we could give a variance?
I think, you know, the fallback position has long been to go back to the land use boards, the zoning board of appeals and planning and zoning, and ask them to release of approval.
Right.
Because it was granted at the time based on the representation that we'd have a license agreement. The state indicated they were willing to
Right.
provide a license agreement.
Right.
Yeah.
That's proving too difficult. I think everyone understands that
I
we
think
have
it's
a
safe.
1,500 car parking field there, and the public can use it. So I don't think in practical terms it's necessary, but we are where we are, so I'm
Okay.
trying to get through it.
Right. Try to do it right first.
Yep.
Right.
I mean, I think that's really the issue.
Yeah.
The company wanted to do the right thing
Yeah.
and compensate a property owner for any use of their facilities in the event that some of their patrons park there. The difference is with a private property owner, that's a very common solution. For a public entity where you have the space available for the public to use, it's making their minds go crazy, so it's,
This is, sometimes, better to, seek forgiveness than, permission.
Right.
Right,
Uh-huh.
got it.
The only other thing I will mention, we did do the, Bev helped, with our annual, shop and stroll in the spring event.
That's a great
I
turnout.
thought we had a decent turnout, you know, the weather was a little iffy.
Mhm.
You know, this typically doesn't generate as much traffic as the one in, during the holiday season. Fairfield Youth Bookstore was a great host and had some wonderful munchies there, which I took advantage of. You know, I didn't have dinner, so I was, you know, taking advantage of that. And the feedback generally has been from the merchants, I think, for the most part, has been positive. I mean, there's always some disappointment if the traffic doesn't, you know, the sales figures don't show, but I think also people understand our job is to make sure the word gets out and to provide an opportunity, and sometimes it just doesn't materialize. So we are having a follow-up meeting next week with the, next Wednesday with the downtown merchants. We always review the results, get some feedback, both in terms of a written survey and then our follow-up recap meeting, and then we'll plan our next event, which is sidewalk sale, and we have before that the, Fairfield, which is June 20th. We've got a really good response on that so far, so I think we're gonna have a record number of venues and record number of performers for. And the one other thing I will mention is, I'll probably provide a more, fuller report on, next meeting, but, we, you know, with the change to the outdoor dining regs, we've had a flurry of more recent activity in terms of restaurants now realizing as the weather improves, hey, I'd like to formalize the arrangement. We've certainly encouraged them to do so. I've met with a number of restaurant operators to date. We've gotten, Little Pub, The Stand, approved, Blackstones and and Lobster Craft were approved. Blackstones and Grey Goose are in the queue. I think Blackstones, is actually going before Zoning Board of Appeals for a minor variance of parking day, and then they would go to a compliance week with planning and zoning, or the week or the following. So if you know restaurants that are, you know, interested, and we've certainly, this is the time to do it, because we have the positive momentum, we have the experience with COVID. So if they're trying to memorialize an arrangement that they had during the temporary COVID restrictions, and they had some flexibility there, they're trying to make that long-term, now is the time to go through that process. People remember it, they say, oh, we didn't really have a problem, you know, they make the connection, and these things are getting approved. But I'm fearful if too much time goes by, it'll be amnesia. We won't remember that, and it'll be a much harder path to plow. So again, if you know restaurants, they're thinking about it, have them call me. We'll happy to walk them through the process, do a site. We've actually gone out on site with planning and zoning staff, talked to the health department, made sure everything's in order. So we'll do what we need to do to get them through the process quickly and as painlessly as. That's it for my report. Happy to take any questions.
Excellent. Anyone?
Is there an estimated finish date for Chick-fil-A, or do they have?
I mean, I would think probably end of year, early next, maybe.
Oh, okay, so further down.
It's out. Chick-fil-A did issue a press release of some sort, confirming that they were the tenant for the facility. I think they gave an indication as to what their plans. And that they are doing work now in earnest on that site, so,
For that equates to early spring semester.
Yes.
well, you know, it's gonna be very
Right,
popular.
there we go, announce it,
The Grubhub, Uber Eats, I can see.
Right.
Just have lined
Good.
up there. So.
That's great. All right. So, do we want to maybe open up to, was it Ken and Matt and?
Well, Ken, I should say Ken and Steve and I,
yeah.
met for a drink last night,
Mhm.
and, Ken, has access and I know Colin does as well with their respective jobs. So Ken has access to some great, data sources, and I think, you know, they're not gonna take time today, but we're gonna refine that information, because there's a lot of it.
Yeah.
We're just gonna condense it down, and hopefully have something for you at the next meeting that, maybe gives the commission some background information as to how Fairfield relates to some of the other communities in the tri-state area, and how we could best position, Fairfield in terms of, you know, business attraction and growth. So is that a good sum, Ken?
Yep, fabulous. Love it.
All right.
Nice, excellent.
And in terms of our next meeting, it is, I believe I have a tentative date with, Bigelow Tea for June 1st. And I'll just confirm that we have, and I'm hoping that Cindy, her schedule will permit her to join us for a few minutes. Hello, and give us an update from there.
So it'd be on that site?
It'll be on site.
Interesting.
And, I've asked the, plant manager if he could, at the
Samples?
conclusion of our short meeting, well, we can have samples, of course, but he, to give us a short tour. So I don't know if anyone's been through,
No?
their facility, but, they're a great company. Cindy is terrific, obviously. So they were happy to host us, and it's just working the schedule out. That's
Wonderful.
So I'll provide more details.
That's exciting, that's great.
And then I think Bev, did you have?
Yes, I just, want to announce that, the Chamber each year has an awards dinner, and we're holding it on Wednesday, June 28th. And we will be recognizing the two universities in town with regard to their economic impact, not only in Fairfield, but surrounding and also through the state. I mean, the numbers are incredible and amazing. So they will receive the, economic impact recognition and award, and then we, also recognize a local business, that will be Pet Pantry for Company of the Year, and, I hope to get Wolfgang in for Nonprofit of the Year. So it should be an interesting meeting. I'm thinking about reaching out to the governor, for him to come down and say a few words. But we're so happy, and especially with the arenas. I mean, we know our universities have been on the map forever, but boy, has this just elevated with the sports and the universities, and that impact is huge in so many different ways. So we're very excited about this on the 28th. We hope you can all attend from the commission.
Thank you, Beverly.
So, for those, joining us online, I just distributed, I forgot to mention too, the BRBC, Bridgeport Regional Business Council, publishes an annual, publication. They invite, the six communities in the MetroCog region to submit, little articles explaining, you know, what's going on, new developments, things that are either happening or planned. And so I put together a brief article with a lot of pictures, and thank you, Jen, for, we got some, pictures from Fairfield and Sacred Heart, and also some of the projects going on. So, profiling the new arenas and sports facilities, in particular. So, that'll run, I mean, I don't know how, they use it as part of their outreach to businesses in the area as well as prospects, but, like most, at least the price was right here, the cost was free. Put in something,
Yeah, you've got that catalog or something,
it
not
is.
catalog,
I think it's digital, but, you know,
Okay.
but, yeah, we've cut back a little bit on our advertising spend, because I don't really generate too many business leads, from,
no.
advertising, honestly. I think we'd have a better return if we do direct. We've done some direct, marketing to business prospects, and so that's, you know, with information that Kenny or Colin, Colin, we've talked about, business prospects in the area through his work employment, so, that's probably an area that we could.
I'm just curious, what was the rendering of this?
that rendering on the first page is the Fairfield Metro Center.
It is, okay, that's
Fairfield
what I
Metro.
thought, I just,
So, you know, I provided a link last time, it really visually, you know, again, it's a rendering, so.
yes, yes.
That's
That's right, I know, right, right.
But I think they've done a nice job.
Yeah.
Of trying to provide different, you know, in terms of, so it doesn't just look like one massive building. So it's, I like in terms of the building styles, the height, in terms of how they're providing some articulation in the site, it looks really nice, so.
Yeah, well, this looks
Yeah,
nice.
hopefully it'll, when they actually get around, hopefully to getting it approved and built, it'll look exactly like that.
Yeah. Or better.
Okay.
Or better.
Or better.
That's your story, you're sticking to it.
Yeah, that's right, excellent, very good. Is, anyone else have any commentary? Great, all right, I guess we're good to close our meeting, if, unless you have anything else that you'd like to.
No, that's it for me.
All right, well, thank you, very much,
Thank you all.
everyone.
Peter Penzer, I
right.
see.
Oh, excellent, hey, Peter, how are you?
Great to everyone.
Good.
Thanks so much.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay.
Safe drive, Steve.
Okay.
Thank
Bye for
you.
now.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
We're adjourned at 9:20,
All good.
Whatever.